I'm Nick, and this is a new case from Corsair. This is the Frame 4500. We saw this one at Computex. I'm actually not sure about the pricing for this, but it is coming out as of this video going live. Let's take a little bit of a closer look, and I want to talk to you guys about a few things that I found with this case. Some of them good, and some of them not very good. Let's take a closer look.
This video is brought to you by VIPSCDkey.com. Have you ever installed Windows 11 only to see the watermark of death? You don't need to fork out a couple of $100s for a key. You can grab one from today's video sponsor, from VIPSCDkey.com for a tenth of the price. You can use our code GEAR to get 30% off for this month only. How good is that? That takes that already cheap Windows 11 key and makes it even cheaper. It's easy as placing your order. Bingo bango. You've got your new key on your orders page. You chuck that key into the activation screen and you're good to go. No more watermark of death. Use code GEAR to get 30% off for this month only. Link in the description. On with the video. Back to you, Nick.
The Corsair 4500X is a mid-tower case with a curved glass panel. That curved panel wraps around the front of the case. And now if you're interested in the dimensions of this case, the case is 542 millimeters deep, 250 millimeters wide, and 556 millimeters tall. To get inside of the case, there's a label that gives you directions, but what you want to do is place your hand flat on the side of the glass panel and push that panel forward, and then you can lift that panel up and away from the case. Be careful because, as you're about to find out, there is nothing that fastens this panel to the chassis at all. To remove the steel part of the back panel, there's a little tab. You just want to pop that top corner out and then you can lift that panel up and away from the case. To remove the side plastic piece, there are some clips on the bottom edge of the case. You just want to pop those out and then you can lift it away from the case. Finally, to remove the top panel, there are two captive thumb screws. You want to loosen those. I found the best way to remove this is just give it a tap and then it loosens it and you can lift that up and away from the case. The top panel does have an integrated dust filter, as well as that there is a dust filter on the bottom of the case which can be slid out towards the side of the case. In terms of the I/O for the case, there's a power button with a combined power light, a combined headphone and microphone jack, two USB Type-A ports, and a USB Type-C port. As for the cables themselves, there's a combined connector for the lights and the switches. There's a USB Type-C cable, a USB Type-A cable, and the front panel audio cable. For storage in the 4500X, it will support two 2.5-inch drives or a single 3.5-inch spinning rasp drive. Be aware though, if you do buy the IQ Link version of the case, it will include the controller, and then you'll only be able to install a single 2.5-inch drive unless you move the controller. I'd recommend leaving the controller in this position because it does have a cutout for it. To power the IQ Link controller, as shown in other videos that we've used this controller with, it does use PCIe power and not SATA power. There's also a single USB 2.0 header cable that plugs into your motherboard for lighting control. For motherboard support, the 4500X supports ITX up to ATX motherboards, including both MATX and ATX back connector boards, as shown by the board that I decided to use for this build, which is the Gigabyte X870 Aorus Stealth Ice. For power supply support, the 4500X will support power supplies up to 250mm in length. As you can see here, there are two captive thumb screws to help with mounting the power supply. Really like that Corsair does this now. It does save you using screws for your power supply. As for side fan mounting in the 4500X, it has a removable bracket. There's a single screw at the top to remove the bracket. However, there are two positions depending on whichever way you want to install this. And as you can see here, you can see the bracket in both positions. On the side here, there are three pre-installed LX IQ Link fans. However, the side bracket will support either 120 or 140mm fans, three 120mm fans, or two 140mm fans. On the bottom of the case, on top of the PSU shroud, it will support up to two 120mm fans, as well as another single 120mm fan on the bottom towards the front of the case. On the rear of the case, the 4500X will support either a 120mm fan or a 140mm fan. It will support up to a 360mm radiator or a 280mm radiator depending on how you configure the InfiniRail. We've shown this on all of Corsair's frame cases. They do have this adjustable rail. You can move it either to a 140mm position or a 120mm position. And as you're seeing here, I did install a 360mm liquid cooler at the top. As for GPU support, there is a GPU support bracket. This is similar to the one that we saw with the Frame 4000. However, the rubber is pre-installed, which I talk about a little bit later on in the video. And to adjust it, you loosen the thumb screw and you can slide it up to any position and then tighten the thumb screw to lock it into that position. If you wanted to vertically mount your GPU, you need to bring your own riser cable. However, you can rotate the PCIe cutouts with 2 thumb screws. Basically just loosen them and then you can rotate it into this position and you're good to go. Bob is your brother's cousin's uncle's father. For maximum GPU length, you can do up to a 460mm long GPU. It's almost infinite at that point. Well, not really, because it's 460mm for GPU support. Taking a bit of a look at the cable management, you can see I didn't really try to do anything exotic with cable management. I used the included Velcro tie downs for all of the cables here. In fact, I didn't use them for the EPS power cables. Keep in mind that I mentioned this a bit later in the video, but the 24-pin power connector, it's probably better to bend it to the right rather than to the left if you're using a back connector motherboard. You can see that when I'm putting on the side panel here, I do struggle because I put the cable the wrong way like an absolute moron. But yeah, that's basically everything you need to know for now. We'll talk about the thermals in a sec. Let's take a look at the thermals with the Frame 4500. What you're seeing on your screen right now is the thermals are about average. They're not the best, but they're also not the worst. As I've said many times over the last couple months and over the last few case reviews, it's really at the point now where it's very hard for a case vendor to make a case with terrible thermals. We've got 3 intake, 4 exhaust, 1 exhaust out the rear. This is the optimal configuration if you're not looking at adding more fans than comes with the case really, because this is the IQ Link version. Like I mentioned already, you can put 3 extra fans, not including the one in the rear in this case. You can do 3 more intake, 2 on the top of the PSU shroud and 1 at the bottom at the front too. If you're interested in the hardware with this build, there's a PC part picker list as well as some Amazon links down below in the description. They're global links, so it doesn't matter where you click them from, you'll be helping out the channel. Okay, let me talk a little bit about the 4500 and more specifically this version of the case, which is the IQ Link version. So first of all, you'll notice that this version did come with 3 reverse pitch LX fans for intake on the side of the case. Now, one of the biggest problems that I had with this was this. Now, I put this aside just to show you guys, maybe you can see this. This is the little coupler that Corsair uses to connect their fans together. This is what it looked like when I pulled it out, because the bottom fan wasn't working properly. It had completely exploded, and that's ridiculous. I spent 3 hours trying to get all of the RGB working on the fans, and because of this destroyed connector right out of the box, yeah, I wasted just an ungodly amount of time. Lucky for me, I've got a bunch of these Corsair fans. I got another coupler and I was good to go and it all worked. But what if you're not me? What if you're a regular person freaking out over the fact that your fans that you've just paid good money for just aren't working? So That's the first quality control issue. The second quality control issue is kind of a strange one with this case, because I've praised Corsair for making really great cases over the last 12 months, because the truth is they have been great. However, something that they may have overlooked is the fact that the case side panel with this curved glass panel, there's no way to fasten it to the case whatsoever. So it's basically just able to pop out whenever you want. So if you pick it up and you're touching the glass, chances are the case is just going to fall away and you'll drop it. Not only that, I noticed when I was peeling the glass, no matter which way I peeled the plastic, the case would also just pop open. And on top of that, the craziest thing to me is they have those instructions that I showed earlier on the glass showing how to remove the side panel, but when you peel the sticker off, it's not on top of the plastic and it goes underneath this nice bit of rubber trim that Corsair's put on the case. Why would they do that? You basically have to destroy this and delaminate that to get the sticker off. You're obviously not leaving the directions on how to pull the side glass panel off on your case permanently. This is just these weird quality control things that we see with these cases. Now, the reality of this may be the fact that this is an early sample and maybe the retail ones aren't going to be like this, but knowing Corsair and how far they're usually ahead of their production schedule, I think that even your one might be like that. However, it isn't all bad news. Now, I kind of had a bit of words with Corsair about the Frame 4000D with the GPU support that they had in that case, and the major issue that I had with that one was there was a rubber strip that was included with the case. Now, you guys told me about this, and that is to help support the GPU without touching the fans on the GPU. And on the 4000, that's included as an accessory. Earlier this year, I was having discussions with Corsair in Taiwan, and I said, guys, you need to have the rubber installed on the GPU support. Otherwise, there's no point including it, because even smart people like me didn't see it in the accessory pack and it just should be installed, and they did that. So yeah, not everything is bad with this case. I got to be honest though, the overall design and construction of the case is really nice. I really like how it looks, especially the backside with that cascading plastic panel on the back. It just looks really cool. I like the fact that the top panel is really artistic without restricting airflow. I also like the fact that there's no dust filter on the top. I've talked about this many times. If there's a dust filter at the top, just take it off if you're putting a liquid cooler at the top, because you're restricting all of the exhaust. In terms of building in the Frame 4500D, this case was an absolute breeze to build in. Keep in mind though, with that 24-pin power connector, if you're using a back connector motherboard, you want to bend the cable towards the back edge of the case, which I mean, if you're looking at it dead on, to the right, not to the left, because if you bend it to the left where the cable guide is with the Velcro tie downs, it's going to give you a little bit of a problem getting that back panel on, as you probably saw when I was putting the back panel on when I was filming that part of the video. But I then just like pulled it off, popped it off, bent the cable the other way, and I was good to go. I know someone's going to comment and say, hey, look at that panel, it's coming off, but yeah, that's the reality. I fixed it by not being an idiot. But yeah, overall, not a terrible case. I've got one last issue is, I don't know the pricing for this thing. And I'm filming this well before this case launches, and I don't know how much it costs, and that's weird. What do you reckon it's worth? While I've got you, let's chat about RGB and how stupid all of the software is. I have no idea. You know what? We're not even going to talk about this, because this is just something that I'm going to rant about for 40 minutes. But the bottom line is, been doing RGB for 10 years in PCs at this point. Why is all the software still so shit? I don't get it. You've had 10 years. If someone like Linus Torvalds could make an operating system in a matter of months, why has it taken 10 years for RGB software to get usable? Because it's still not. And this is a joke. Like, come on. Why was this exploded in the fan? It's just, ridiculous. I like these curved glass cases. You guys know that. For me personally, I like them because they're not that boring dual chamber design. Yeah, it's a fish tank, but it's not dual chamber, which makes it a bit nicer because the footprint for cases like this are much nicer. Let us know your thoughts down below and let us know, again, what you think something like this is worth to you. Thanks for watching.